Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to our May activities of the Pinal County Community College District Governing Board. A number of items on our agenda today, and we welcome you to participate in those activities as far as law will allow. We are going to begin with a public hearing on the budget. We are going to convene that meeting and invite Chris Vodka to give us some information. Chris?
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mr. Chair, governing board members, Madam President, Secretary, colleagues, and any guests with us this afternoon. The public hearing on the budget, if you all recall, we approved the tentative budget at the April board meeting. We have had no changes since the April board meeting, so I'd just like to run over the totals one last time before formal approval. The general fund total expenditures are $48,770,000. Plant fund are $4.8 million. The retirement of debt fund is $9,510,644, and the total funds that we are budgeting, both on the revenue and the expense side, is $91,070,644. And once again, on the primary tax levy, we have a tax rate this year of 2.0833 in the primary levy, which totals approximately $52.5 million in property tax revenues. With that, I'll be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of the board at this time? Hearing no questions, we will now open it up to the call to the public for our budget items only. Are there any comments from any members of the audience or the public? No one has signed up. I see no one raising their hand and moving towards the podium. With that, then we will move from our public hearing and call our special meeting adoption of the 2019-2020 district budget meeting to order. At this point in time, I will entertain a motion to take action.
I would make that motion.
Thank you. Mrs. Christensen moves to adopt the 2019-2020 district budget. Is there a second? Second. I have a second for Mr. Waldron. Is there discussion? Hearing no discussion, we will proceed to vote. Those in favor of the motion to adopt the 2019-2020 district budget, would you please signify by saying aye?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed by saying nay? Are there any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously. We will now adjourn the special meeting and move into our regular meeting by calling it to order and invite Gladys Christensen to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Are there any names signed up for call to the public at this time? We have no names for call to a public, and we will move then to our next item on the agenda, which is consideration of the consent agenda. All items with an asterisk on the agenda are consent matters unless they are removed from the consent agenda at this time. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda by any governing board member upon motion duly made, seconded, and approved. Consent agenda items will be approved by one motion, and there will be no specific discussion of these items. Items removed from the consent agenda will be approved as a non-consent agenda item. I would entertain the pleasure of the board concerning the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move the consent agenda as presented be adopted.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, and I have a second. Mrs. Christensen. Any discussion?
Yes. I just have a question. Regarding the county treasurer's transactions, which in short puts our money at the discretion of investment by the supervisors. This came up last year for me, and it was still confusing to me this year as to why we're using the supervisors rather than an investment, a person who is certified in investment. I understand the supervisors really don't do the investing. They do use someone, but why don't we just do it directly ourselves and save money? Mr. Watka, can you answer my question, please?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. This is a standard procedure resolution that we adopt for each new fiscal year coming up. The reason Pinal County has the dollars is most, if not all, public entities in Pinal County. The monies, in particular, the property taxes, are already in the Pinal County's hands. They invest and reinvest the dollars, and readily available, meaning liquid for us to remove the dollars at a moment's notice when we need to make payments, in particular for our debt service on our principal and interest. And there are no restrictions on us as far as keeping funds in long term or short term, and the rate that is generated, the interest rate, has on average been higher than any investment company.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that description. We have a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. Those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by saying nay?
Nay.
Thank you. Any abstentions? We have 4 ayes and 1 nay. The motion carries. The consent agenda is accepted. Informational items. Item number 9, policies for first reading. Brandy Bain.
Good afternoon, Governing Board President Gibson, Governing Board members, President Elliott, Mary Lou, staff, students, and guests. This afternoon, I present to you the first reading of the following 2 revised policies: Children on Campus and Environmental Health and Safety. These are policies that are being revised in conjunction with our policy revision project that we've been working on. So this is just the first reading for Governing Board review only. I'd be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Governing board members and staff and guests, and Vice President Bain, I did have a question, and it's in regards to the policy of children invited to the campus. Excuse me, I'm sorry. It goes with the pollen outside. What concerns me about this policy is that it just addresses children. As far as I know, the policy to address community members, adult community members who want to use our campus rooms for meetings is very restrictive, where this policy does not appear to be so. In other words, to what extent are we going to ask for assurance that if there is a child accident, that we are not responsible for that?
I'll try. I'm not sure. Deborah, Dr. Banks, I'm not really sure I understand the question. Are you asking about liability if children are on our campus, and I thought I heard you say something about community members who use our facilities when they rent them? So,
I'm asking about the liability holdings for the children if somebody becomes injured. And I also brought in the community members because they're being asked to have a special rider on their insurance policies if they want to use any of our facilities.
well, I think it says in the policy the college accepts neither responsibility nor liability for injuries that may occur to a child or damages caused by the child while on the college's property. Responsibility for damages and any liability lie entirely and completely with the responsible parent or guardian.
Now, does that guardian or parent sign a waiver?
No.
Could we include in the procedures a statement that would address the issue of a waiver signing?
Certainly we can consider that in the procedure development.
Could I have assurance on that?
Well, I'm trying to think of what procedure really goes with this policy because we didn't have a procedure written with this policy. We actually, and the institutions we benchmarked didn't have procedures either. They just had this policy. What I can do is we can run this policy by legal and get an assurance from legal that this statement in policy, since policy is legally binding, covers your question.
Okay. I will vote on the policy once that statement of waivership or whatever you call it is incorporated in the policy, since there's no procedural portion to this policy.
And Dr. Banks, just for a point of clarification, when community members do rent and use our facilities, they don't sign waivers either. Our policy and the agreement with them is that we accept no responsibility. It's a similar statement to this.
Well, but you asked them to have a rider on their insurance.
Correct.
When they use facilities at the campuses. So how do you handle it for children?
So maybe I can try to clarify the two situations. So in the situation where a community member is renting our facility, yes, we do require them to carry insurance in case someone who's at their event does fall down, get hurt, or there's damages. The entity that is renting the room or the space on our campus carries the liability instead of the college. In this case, the college would carry the liability, but we have this statement in here saying we assume no liability.
The parents would.
The parents are responsible. This is a very common policy that almost all of our sister institutions have. So in this case, the parent carries the liability. The community, the entity that's renting our facility may have 600-700 people come. We're not going to assume that responsibility, and then they could even waive responsibility, but they have to carry insurance for that reason. Does that make sense?
Yes, it totally makes sense, but it needs to be spelled out in this policy section since there's not a procedural section. And I would appreciate, and you already said that the parties who work on the policy would do that, well, would consider it, and I want to see them do it.
Well, I'm going to probably need to retract that because again, we don't have a procedure with this, and I don't know how we would manage a waiver for all those situations. What I can do is ask our legal to look at this particular sentence that does waive our liability and get an insurance from the attorney that this statement does in fact negate any liability that we might have.
I would greatly appreciate that,
Yeah.
and thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you. Is there any discussion relative to the policies for first reading 9.1 and 9.2? Thank you very much, Brandy. Appreciate it. We will next go to item number 10, Arizona Association of Community College Trustees Report. Dr. Banks.
The only report that I have is what the recent email that I received from the president of the state's, Arizona State's Community College Trustees. And that is for a meeting, a special meeting for strategic planning in Prescott in September. Actually, it's September 6th, 7th, and the 8th is a choice day. You can either stay and play or go back home. So I sent that email to the board members, and they're going to have to decide whether or not they want to attend this meeting. The final agenda has not been set, but the main focus is to set up a strategic plan to work with legislators or their staff on higher ed policies and workforce policies. That's all I have to report on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Dr. Banks? Thank you very much. We'll move next to item number 11, report from Central Arizona College President, Dr. Elliott.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Board of Governors, President Gibson, faculty, staff, and guests. I have a quick legislative update and district update to provide with you today. The first is House Bill 2036. It requires community colleges to annually report exceptions to the requirement for dual enrollment students to be a high school junior or senior and the justification for the exceptions by October 1st of each year. This bill has been signed by the governor. The Senate Bill 1048 requires community colleges to grant admissions to students who are under 18 years of age and who achieve either a minimum score of 720 on a scholastic aptitude test or a minimum score of 12 on the ACT. This bill has also been signed by the governor. Senate Bill 1069, it prohibits colleges and universities from restricting a student's right to speak in a public forum, but are allowed to impose reasonable time, place, and manner restriction as permitted by statute. This has passed the Senate. Senate Bill 1191 requires each community college district to administer the Arizona Works Community College grants for students who are enrolled in career and technical education programs. Grants must be used to pay for tuition and fees. The eligibility requirements for the grants are established by the Arizona Works Community College Grant Fund and appropriates $10 million from the general fund in each year 2019-20 through 23-24. It self-repels in July of 2026. This has passed the Senate. And the last Senate Bill 1217 entitles any person who graduates from a public or private high school in Arizona to the Arizona High School graduate tuition rate in the amount prescribed by the Community College District Governing Board. This too has passed the Senate. Those few that have passed the Senate and have not yet been signed by the governor, it's kind of looking kind of glim and at this point, but I will keep you posted on what might happen with those three in particular. Are there any questions about the legislative update? Okay. For the district update, I have met individually with 290 full-time employees. That's well over half. It's 3/4. This is equated to about 8,700 minutes or 145 hours. So it's been an endeavor. Feedback from these meetings is compiled into themes, and the themes are reviewed by myself and the vice presidents monthly. Areas for improvement that continue to come across as a theme is communication, customer service, and more training. People really do want more training, in particular with Campus Nexus as well as other areas. A majority of employees are appreciative of the opportunity to work at CAC. They appreciate the benefits and the new initiatives like visiting with the VPs and rounding that supervisors are doing. The next update I want to give you is I've been working on this for probably about 1.5 years, but we were finally successful to secure funding from the governor's office, Helios, and the Arizona Community Foundation to launch a statewide Center for Student Success, and we launched this month. Centers like this are recognized by Jobs for the Future, and currently only 15 states have a Student Success Center. It's not a physical location, but it is an entity that coordinates and connects the dots between colleges across the state so that they can collectively meet completion goals. The center then creates a coherent statewide framework for action, or a lens through which community colleges in the state elevate, align, and integrate their work in various student success initiatives. Central Arizona College is serving as the host institution for the Arizona Center for Student Success. So we're very excited about that launch. And the work that will be done with that over the next 3 years is the Guided Pathways work, where every institution will have access to resources and coaches equally. So, and that completes my report. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions? No questions. Thank you very much for your report. We appreciate that very much. Next item is item 12, Business Affairs Reports. Chris Vodka.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 2 reports. First one on the monthly budget reports. In your packet is physical numbers, bar graphs, and line charts for both the operating and the auxiliary enterprise funds. This is through the month of April of 2019. The district's operating fund expenditures are at approximately 68.23%. This is a decrease of about 3% from April of 2018, which was at 71.28%. Be happy to answer any questions on our new format that was shown to you last year, or we can go through each report. It's up there. Okay, go on. Next, please. This is a summary total of the actual numbers to the budget, fiscal year to date. Actual is a percentage of the budget, and also the previous year's totals. This is a line chart showing our actuals compared to the previous year. revenues and the expenditures. Bar chart of the major categories. Obviously, the three major revenue being the property taxes, tuition and fees, and state appropriation dollars. Expense categories, benefits and salaries. Next. And then same type of data replicated for the auxiliary enterprise funds. Numbers, line chart, and a bar chart.
Any questions? Thank you.
Second report is the awarded purchases over $20,000. We have a handful this month. First one is to remodel the men's and women's restrooms. This is for the gym. SD Crane Builders Incorporated out of Mesa, Arizona, in the amount of $35,560.83. Next one, fire service for the Santan campus. Vendor being Rural Metro Fire Department out of Scottsdale, Arizona, $24,018.68. Assistance to move towards guided pathways, AACC out of Baltimore, Maryland. This is to participate in the Pathways Project 2.0. This is year 2 of 3 in the amount of $45,000. Next one, high risk network switch replacement, Avid Consulting from Gilbert, Arizona, $25,000. That's to contract for network and system consulting services for the entire district. Next one is flooring for 3 sets of dorm stairs and landings. Taylor's Flooring out of Mesa, Arizona, $27,229.32. Obviously for our dorms here at the Signal Peak campus. Security camera life cycle replacements, and that's the Technologies Group out of Tempe, Arizona, for $30,000. This is to replace and to add security cameras for the Signal Peak campus. And the last one is a second phase of core remediation, Avid Consulting, Gilbert, Arizona, $25,000, and that is also for network and system consulting services for the district. Any questions on our purchases 20,000 and over?
Any questions? Thank you for your report. We
Thank you, sir.
appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is item number 13, Student Activity Fee Update. Dr. Jenny Cardenas.
Good afternoon, President Gibson, Governing Board, Dr. Elliott, colleagues, students, and guests. I'm very happy today to introduce 2 people. Kim David is going to come up. She is our Director of Student Activities and Student Engagement and Activities. And she also may be joined by Dr. Rousseau, who is our Dean of Student Life and our Dean of Students. So they're going to present to you an update as requested by the board on our student activity fee that was implemented some time ago. So they've got some great information to share with you today.
Good afternoon to the board. I'm actually not going to speak a whole bunch. I just want to defer to Kim and just publicly acknowledge all the work that our Student Activities and Engagement Office does for and with our students. Kim is the one that works directly with all of our students across the district and planning a lot of these activities and providing oversight for those processes. And I also want to acknowledge our Department Secretary, Teresa. They do such amazing work for our students across the district. So I would be remiss if I had this opportunity and didn't take it to say thank you for all of their work. But Kim has pulled all the information and data for this presentation and put it together. So I will allow her to provide that for you. Thank you.
Thank you. And ooh, I'm really short. Good afternoon. So next slide, please. Okay, so the student activities fee supports everything that we do in student engagement and activities. And when people kind of ask, what is it that we do? Our purpose is to provide opportunities to all CAC students to connect with the community outside of the academic classroom. And this includes building very valuable leadership skills and developing those life skills. And we're able to do those through 4 main areas: through campus events, district-wide activities, leadership development, and also the interdepartmental collaborations. Next slide. So the student activities fee is divided into 3 different areas. We have our student activities, which is kind of our general student activities fund, student government, which is the group of students that serve as a voice for the entire student community, and our student programming board, which we actually call campus activities. And you can see our beginning balance for the fiscal year 2019 was $170,498. And when I pulled this report together, the current balance on May 15th was $31,344.15. All of these funds have now been encumbered. They are supporting the Wellvia partnership, which is sponsored by our student government, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on. And then it also helps with our student travel so that our students are able to go and really develop some great leadership skills through training and do presentations, and then bring that back to strengthen what we're doing on our campus. Next slide. So I came in October 31st, 2017, and I attended the governing board meeting November 2017 when I believe the first report was given. And this slide actually comes from that presentation. The objective at that time was that using the student activities fees, we would increase the number of activities by 50% for 2017-2018. And then in 2018-2019, we would actually double or increase by 100% the activities that we offered before the student activities fee came in place. And so they said that we were going to do this by student groups organizing to provide the programming using prudent use of available funds. And I'll kind of give you a little bit of insight about how this is done, in that we have student groups come to me and they provide a proposal about the activities and events they want to do. And I really use it as a student development opportunity. I guide them through a series of questions. We talk about who is your intended audience, what are the objectives. We talk a lot about budget and how do you use a budget, so they're learning all throughout this process. And then our office provides oversight in making sure that those funds are used appropriately. And the reason why for all of this is because research shows that engaged students are more likely to complete their academic goals and are more satisfied with their college experience. And through our series of assessments, both pre-assessments and post-assessments, especially with the National Society of Leadership and Success, which I'll touch on, we've really seen that this has happened in the past 2 years. Next slide. So did we achieve our goal? 2016, 2017, before the student activities fee came into place, the budget of student engagement supported 60 events district-wide. Then I came in 2017, 2018, we started laying the foundation, and we were able to have a 53% increase with 92 events supported district-wide. And then now we've kind of completed our full academic year since I've been here, and so 2018-2019, we supported 136 events with the student activities fee district-wide, which shows a 126% increase. Next slide. And so in the 4 different areas, we have doubled the events offered to students at each of their campuses, and I do go and I serve each of the 5 campuses. We've introduced Spirit Weeks. During exam week and midterms, we have different stress buster activities. These are student-led. And then all of our campus activities board events. And these are decided at each campus by their own activity boards. And we've also introduced signature events for each campus. Maricopa campus this year had their first very successful Halloween haunted house and movie event. Santan campus had, for their second year, had their fall festival. Here at Signal Peak campus, our students totally led a magical night at CAC, and they actually have built in a plan because it's based off Harry Potter movies for the next 8 years, having this and growing it. Aravaipa has their signature events with highway cleanups, but they've introduced an end-of-year bash. And then our students at Superstition Mountain campus during the fall semester had a very intensive Spirit Week. For our district-wide events, we wanted to have some events that would kind of unify the district, and we introduced traveling programs. So we have our Create a Creature, which is very popular among all of our students. We have great turnouts every time. It really shows the school spirit that comes with that. We've had a traveling trivia game show where actually the different campuses were able to compete against each other. And then we had our Travel Studies Fair, which we also introduced luau's at each of the campuses. We've also supported and held events at our corporate center and Casa Grande Center so that we could create connections with the students there. And then we've also included a new Harkins movie experience, which allows students, faculty, staff, traditional age students, non-traditional age students, all to be at the same event at the same time and really connect and have a good time with that. Then we go into our leadership development. We introduced this fall an Emerging Leadership One-Day Conference. Brand new that we had 52 registered attendees. With that, they participated in a full day of very interactive workshops. And then this was also our first year to introduce the National Society of Leadership and Success here at Central Arizona College. In our very first year, we had 302 students join, representing all 5 campuses. 154 students completed their steps of induction within the first year. And this also added 10 new leadership development across the district. And a little bit more into that, this is a very intensive process. For students to be inducted, they have to attend an orientation session. So they go to that session and they learn about communication styles. Then there is a 3-hour leadership training day that they have to commit to, and they go and they actually develop their own mission or purpose statement. In order to be inducted, they have to attend 3 speaker broadcasts. These are national speaker broadcasts. We've had Dr. Oz, Carla Hall, Adam Grant, Dr. Drew, Dr. Shafali, and we had 166 students attend at least 3 of those. And then we had 154 students complete their success networking teams, which is where students have to meet 3 times. They have to come up with their own personal goal, set action steps for it, and then are held accountable to completing their goals. In addition to all of this, we've had students that are now working towards their advanced and executive certification with the NSLS, and that's going to actually introduce a lot of service programs because each of those students are required to do a Better World program for part of their certification. Next slide. Then we've also supported a lot of collaborations between departments. We introduced a non-credit leadership class for our student leaders that have been elected and selected. This is a collaboration between Residence Life and also recruitment. We have worked with our Vaquero Rally Days, giving opportunities for our current students to talk about their experiences and what they're having here at the college. We've worked with Cultural Expressions, a partnership between the Learning Center and Communication faculty. We supported TED Talks, and actually our district-wide campus activities board director was a speaker for that. We are continuing to strengthen our relationship with athletics. We support the Title IX programs, creating awareness among our students, and we are also in partnership with the Center for Cultural and Civic Engagement. So in summary, for the 2018-2019 academic year, we had a 126% increase in student activities district-wide events from before the student activities fee. We've had 1 or more large-scale signature student events at each campus, and we've celebrated, in collaboration, 10 Diversity Cultural Heritage Months here. But we're not done. We have lots of new things coming up for 2019-2020. We have one of our challenges is always connecting students across the 5 districts. So we've introduced student engagement and activity talks, or SEATs at CAC. We actually kicked this off yesterday with a Facebook Live, doing a summer book club. We are introducing a travel fund for students to strengthen that, going to get valuable leadership skills and bringing it back to strengthen what they're doing here on the campus. We've heard from students that podcasts are very popular and very convenient for them to get information. So this fall, we're starting a Vaquero Vibe podcast. Our Student Government Association heard from our students about the need for more support health-wise. So they are sponsoring the WellVia services. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary, so we will be in support of that. And then to, again, increase that connection between each campus, our department is hiring a student employee at each campus to help market and support those events. And so my contact information is there and in your packet, but I am happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you very much for your very informative report. We're glad to see so many exciting things happen and the outreach to the students that is occurring. I'm going to invite the board members to ask any questions that they might have.
Just a comment, to me, it seems like a great program, very successful, so kudos.
Thank you. We definitely have lots of support from some incredible staff and just wonderful students. So it's not possible without them.
I have two questions. Kim, what does the WellVia program do?
Okay. I can actually, Dean Tremaine can talk a little bit more of that.
Hello again. WellVia will be our partner in providing telehealth services to students starting with this next year. It'll be a trial 1-year period that we're trying out. It is sort of an offset to our health and wellness task force that we set up to kind of address the health needs of our students. We started with Signal Peak campus focus, but what we determined was district-wide, our students are needing to get better served when it comes to medical, counseling needs, things like that. So this will enable students to call in for a service. A lot of people are familiar with teledoc types of things, so they can call in to a doctor or face-to-face via web chat or our phone, computer, whatever the case may be. Go over those symptoms that they may be having, and the doctor will diagnose whatever common cold, flu, UTI, those types of things, and then be able to offshoot a prescription to their local pharmacy, so that the student can attack whatever is they're bothering them, so they can make sure they're in the classroom as opposed to staying out. And also the mental health needs of students is also paramount, and so this also allows them to speak with the counselor on demand or set up ongoing therapy with a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist, so that those needs are being met. So
That's great. Who pays for the psychologist?
Well, part of student engagement's partnership and student government's partnership with this process, we pay an administrative fee to utilize the service. The students will pay a small copay type, $35 is what they would pay to utilize the service. Depending on how this year goes, we may move into a plan where there's no copay for the student, or we continue on with the $35. So the board will probably see lots more information about that more into the fall semester, because it will be a big initiative for us to provide. We're one of the first to do this in the state, but colleges are doing it across the nation, but we're one of the first in the state. So you'll definitely be hearing more about that project in the fall.
That's great. My second question is the students who, could we go back a slide? It's the last item on the slide, and it's basically setting up a student as an ambassador for the campus to the community. How are they being trained in that way?
So they are being trained directly by me. We have a online system for training, which I've compiled a bunch of videos. So it's kind of like a flipped classroom style. They'll watch some videos that I've presented that gives them the context. Then we'll do in-person training. And then actually I will be setting up one-on-one weekly phone calls with them, since I'm not able to be at every campus physically, so that we can kind of establish what's going on and what's going to meet the unique needs of each campus and each community there. So they will have ongoing training throughout the entire time, because it's just as important for them to learn the skills while they're also providing a service to their campus.
Thank you, Kim. I'm from Santan Valley, so we've got two strong places, Santan Heights and Johnson Ranch. And I'm not too sure about Copper Basin, but Santan Heights and Johnson Ranch have activities that the students can connect with. Are you monitoring those activities to which the students can connect?
We do, and I have liaisons and advisors on each of the campuses that are more connected locally with the neighborhoods and the communities that are there. And I know, so for example, our Santan students have participated in local parades, and they've been doing youth forums. So we do have things in place where students are coming to campus from the outside community, and our students are interacting and helping out with that, as well as our students going out into the community. And especially now with the NSLS Better World projects, we'll see a little bit more of that going on also, as they're looking for the real issues that they can assist with while also developing their own skills.
Thank you very much, Tremaine and Kim.
Are there other questions from the board?
Have a comment.
Mr. Miller.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for your leadership, both of you. When this was first presented to the board for consideration, I have to say I have my doubts. I thought there'd just be a couple extra concessions, soft drink parties, or chips or whatever, and that the kids would learn something out of it. This was initiated from the kids for the students at that time, and I have to say I'm a little jealous. It makes me kind of want to be a student again. But I think this is paying huge dividends. Everybody who's involved in it, getting the community leadership involved as well, has gone a long way, and I really applaud your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Just wanted to say to Mr. Miller that the college would be pleased to take his tuition fees. All right, our next item on the agenda is item 14, monitoring reports. I'll turn the podium over to Dr. Gilliland, Dr. Elliott, and Mr. Wack.
Good afternoon, President Gibson, members of the board, Dr. Elliott, colleagues, students, and guests. This will be quite a tag team effort, as there are 3 of us involved with this monitoring report, but I am pleased to start off. Outcome 6 has to do with ensuring optimization of fiscal resources for the college, not just with our budget, but with other resources that we may bring in. So I'm reporting specifically on grants received. And I'd like to say that our goal, of course, is to increase the percentage of our total revenue that comes from grant funding. But another effort that we have been cognizant of in this process is that we want to bring in very good, important, solid grants that are significant in size, but where they also support the mission and strategic goals of the college.
bringing in a small grant that is tangential to our goals is not very helpful. So we've really been trying to hone and focus our efforts, and we've been doing a fairly good job there. Actually, I would say a very good job. We are aiming to be at or above the average among our peers, and that's measured through IPEDS. I'd like to say that the IPEDS data is roughly 2 years behind. So when we're looking at 2017 data, it's actually a report from 2015-16. So we don't have completely up-to-date data. That is how IPEDS works. But we are actually closing the gap between our peer institutions and CAC. We've come up a little bit during that time, and I expect we're going to see in the next round much more significant improvement in closing that gap. We have recently brought in several major grants. We have been awarded in this past round a Title V grant for about $2.5 million over 5 years to support our Guided Pathways effort, which is huge for us. That really focuses on a major initiative at the college. We were awarded a grant that's over $400,000 for to support childcare for our students to help keep them in school. And we have a third important grant that came from a private foundation, and that's not an acronym. It's actually the name of the company that provides the ETC that's on our improvements. We were awarded lighting and sound equipment for our Penn Center, so that was also really, really important. And we are, at this moment, working on writing a new Title V Department of Ed grant, which will focus on academic programming. So I think I will leave it there, and I'll pass it on to Dr. Elliott, who's going to be the next in the tag team.
Thank you. Dr. Gilliland, if you can go to the next slide, please. I'm doing this because Maggie Dooley, who is our director of the director of the foundation, kind of manages and oversees this. But as you can see, another measure that the board has established to ensure optimization of fiscal resources include private gifts as compared to percent of revenue. Now, I don't want to appear that we've got 0%. It's just that the amount compared to revenue makes it look that small. But we are still striving towards 5%. This is also IPEDS data, so everything that we've done since 2016 does not show up in this graph. So we will see hopefully gains as our IPEDS data comes in for the next round. Some recent improvements that we have done is we hosted our first alumni banquet event in October of 2019. That was really successful. We launched 25 Changes Lives campaign in April of 2019, and maybe you saw in the newspaper that the mayors in all the municipalities in Pinal County prepared a proclamation declaring April Promise Month. Added 2 new sponsors for Night of Stars. Our Night of Stars event has become very popular, and so we had 2 new sponsors. And then we've accepted equipment and supply donations from Vulcan this year in $132,000 value. CAID Industries, $6,000. Brown's Welding Supply Company, $800, and from an individual, $7,000. We continue to see that grow. If you remember last year, we had a significant amount of donation of equipment and supplies from SUNT. So we continue to see benefits from that. And the other is we are, so our planned improvements is we're going to continue with community outreach and relationship building, expanding partnerships with business and industry. Right now we're in conversations with 2 businesses in industry that want to partner with us for academic program. We're going to build the Alumni Association and host an Alumni and Friends trip as a way to help continue to make connections in the community. So now I hand the baton to Chris.
Thank you, and good afternoon once again, everyone. The last of number 6 is 6.7 actual to budgeted expenditures. If you recall, a couple of years ago in 17, the board set the target of budget to actual to be at 98%. Traditionally, we've been lower than that, at 85, 87. We're projecting 2018 to be closer to 90%, and then even closer when we finish out the fiscal year that ends in 1 month. Some of the recent improvements are expanding the zero-based budgeting that was implemented for both travel and some other operational lines. We conducted budget development training workshops, and a future plan improvement is to continue on our zero-based budgeting for all of the other line items, which will also impact our new system, since our new system will be used next year. The new system will be used for the first full budgeting cycle. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions relative to the monitoring report? I have no questions. Thank you all for your reports. We look forward to those each month. Next item on the agenda is an executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03. The chair seeks a motion to approve going into an executive session.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second to go into executive session. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. We are in executive session. Thank you all for being here today. We will reconvene after the executive session, but we don't anticipate a long agenda after. Our next board meeting will be on June 18th, 2019 here at the Signal Peak campus. And with that, I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you all for being here.